Very good evening, friends. Uh, as we are, having this hybrid mode of CMS VATAVARAN International Film Festival and Forum on Environment and Wildlife, uh, we welcome you all. Uh, as you know that one of the subject which the Vatavaran Festival and Forum talks about is the impact of climate change on the various aspects of living. One of the things that we are observing that the number of natural disasters is growing, day by day, and probably somewhere this is also regarding the ill effects of the climate change and the global warming. And when we talk about the disasters, the natural disasters, so first thing which comes to our mind is NDMA, National Disaster Management. So NDMA deals with these disasters. National Disaster Management Authority is a Government of India organization working with the Ministry of Home Affairs, and they are trying to, make the ill effect of the disaster as less as possible. So today I'm really honored that I'm with us one of the very prominent person from National Disaster Management Authority, uh, Mr. Kunal Satyarthi. Mr. Kunal Satyarthi is currently working as Joint Secretary Advisor at NDMA, uh, and he is also a member of Premier Indian Forest Service. He is from 1997 batch of Himachal Pradesh Cadre. He has more than 25 years of experience in imparting training on forest law and environmental policy, and also participatory natural resource management at national level institutions and academies. So, practical field experience in dealing with natural resources management has been obtained while he's worked as Divisional Forest Officer at Kinnaur, Kullu and Mandi, as the Deputy Director of Greater Himalaya National Park, Kullu, in Himachal Pradesh. And the field posting has been in a high biotic and development pressure scenario in the Himalayas. Field experience is also in dealing with the human wildlife conflict, implementing sustainable livelihood projects, tackling protection and regulation issues. Academically, friends, he is a master in and MPhil in botany from University of Delhi, and he and a master in public policy from Australia National University, Canberra, apart from the degree and courses on various aspects of environment and forestry. His hobbies include cycling, photography, trekking, bird watching, and traveling. So, friends, uh, join your hands and welcome Mr. Kunal Satyarthi, Joint Secretary and Advisor, National Disaster Management Authority, Government of India. Very good evening, sir. Thank you for taking your time and coming for the session, sir.
Thank you so much, Sabasatchi. Thank you. Good to see you, and thanks for this invitation and the opportunity to interact with the audience and to associate with your organization, CMS.
Sir, before we talk about NDMA and its work and climate change, uh, uh, please tell us about your journey. Like you, as we know that you are a member of Indian Forest Service. So, why you decided to join the Forest Service only, and then how was your journey, and then how you become a part of NDMA, sir?
So very long, very interesting question. Long journey to say in few words. I am a botany graduate from Delhi University. I did my masters and bachelors and MPhil in botany from Delhi University. So forestry was a natural choice and a natural progression in life. So we appear in these examinations. I got through the Forest Service and then got the Himachal Pradesh Cadre. So lovely, beautiful mountains full of forest to work in, and the glaciers and the mountain tops. So it has been an amazing journey working in the Himalayas, working in the field, walking and hiking in those forests, also living and journeying through all those small Himalayan villages and trying to understand what natural resource management is all about at the ground. So ground truthing is very crucial before you start any further. So it has been a great 20 years of roaming around the Himalayas and trying to understand what actually it means to be called as a natural resource manager, and what is ecosystem services all about. Those are glorious terms that you hear at the academic level or the international level, is very important to understand at the field operation level. So that has been a very, very interesting and challenging journey. But thereof, I have migrated towards academics. I went back to academics. I did another master's in public policy. I understood that problem of forestry lies not in the forests of India, but more in the villages of India. So I did a
Mhm.
course on public policy, tried to look at socioeconomic aspect, and then came back and worked for some time, and also into research at the Forest Research Institute. Then I went into the Forest Academy, where I was training IFS officers and SFS officers. So it has been great. And now, with some experience in climate change and glaciers and the policy framework, I think I have been selected to look at this new current portfolio that I'm doing as Joint Secretary of Policy and Planning, and also advisor to the National Disaster Management Authority in the Ministry of Home Affairs. It has been a good journey. It has been an interesting journey. Every day has been a great celebration of life. Thank you.
Sir, as uh, you had experience in the Himalayan region, you were, worked as various posts in the forest department in Himachal Pradesh. You must have seen the forest ecosystem and the Himalayan ecosystem very closely, and I think that you must have observed this. The changes which is happening due to climate change in this fragile Himalayan ecosystem, sir. So, do you agree with it that due to climate change, the disaster, or because the Himalayan ecosystem is very fragile, the natural disaster is, happening more often in these regions, not only Himalayan region, but yes, certainly it's happening everywhere, but Himalaya is affected a lot due to climate change. Do you agree, sir?
I have no reasons to disagree, because that is a reality that everybody acknowledges and everybody is aware about. And sitting in the Himalayas, one thing that comes to the mind is the glaciers that are sitting on the top for millions of years, and they are melting very rapidly. That is a known fact. I don't not need to elaborate that.
Yes, sir.
But the associated problems that you have been seeing very recently, like the Kedarnath tragedy or the
Yes, sir.
Chamoli disaster that happened last year, are very, very grim realities that are realities. And these are large glacial lakes sitting on the top of the mountains, and they are increasing both in number and the size, and it is a matter of great concern. Chamoli was not a glacial lake outflow. Chamoli was a snowfall or a rockfall. A whole glacier fell into a lake, and the lake overflowed and led to the disasters. And fortunately, it was not of the extent that it could have been. But these are very important things in the mountains. Now, these are we're talking about mountains which also give rise to all the rivers and the streams in India. And if you we are right now sitting very comfortably in the month of April. In the month of July, the news of cloud burst and flash flood would be very, very rampant, and landslides, three important things in the mountains. So yes, this is a very fragile ecosystem that we're trying to work with. We also need to have developmental parameters of putting up all the hydroelectric power projects in these mountains. The demand for road constructions is high. So very interesting balance, what we call internationally as sustainable development. In reality, is a challenge, because how do you find that equal balance of development and also keeping the mountains intact? So it's a challenging task, but it is a reality.
Sir, as now you are in NDMA, so uh, just for our information, kindly tell us, like, uh, how and NDMA, how NDMA works when it comes about disaster, and so is it only work during the cyclones, or the disasters happening in Himalayan region, or what are its area of work and how it works, sir?
Yeah, so that's a very important question that a lot of people ask. So during cyclone is called response. The word is response. So disaster across the world traditionally has been a response mechanism. When a disaster happens, you look for a response and try to save people and try to save property. So that is the normal idea that you have about disaster. But the change happened in 2005 with a Disaster Management Act of 2005 coming from the Government of India. And this act actually is a paradigm shift in the whole phenomena of disaster management. So disaster is not only about responding when the disaster is happening, it is much larger. And the Disaster Management Act clearly talks about capacity building, preparedness and mitigation, and words like prevention. So these are very important phenomena that happen prior to disaster. So the world now talks about how do you give early warning for disaster, how do you anticipate a disaster happening. Some of them are very the early warning systems have become very sharp and gives a long time lag to respond. So that is very important. The Ministry of Earth Sciences and the IMD and the IIT in Pune are extremely well with some of the disasters, and we can do early warning, and therefore we can also prepare both structurally and non-structurally to respond to this disaster. So response is a very small fragment of the disaster response. So NDMA predominantly looks at all these five important sectors, including we are now going into recovery and reconstruction also in a large way, and picking up new disasters. Lightning is a very important disaster that we don't give much headway to. So it is a very composite and very composite steps, right from capacity building to preparedness to prevention to mitigation. Response is a very small element, and then relief. Once something has happened, the infrastructure is supposed to be put back in place. People are supposed to be helped. So relief would be very important. But now we are also trying to go into recovery and reconstruction. So this has been a very important change. So NDMA is not only response. For response, the Disaster Management Act also talks about creation of a separate body called the National Disaster Response Force. So NDRF is entity created under the Disaster Management Act, which looks predominantly at very rapid response, and it is one of the best forces in the world currently, and they do skill upgradation and equipment upgradation very quickly, and they're deployed across the country. So if you are aware about the orange vest, that is almost like saving life vest, that is NDRF. It is also talking about trainings and capacity building. So NIDM, National Institute of Disaster Management, is also a very important body created by the Disaster Management Act, looking at training perspective. So I think that is what is important, and it is not only NDMA's work, and I'll elaborate further as in the talk, because every department, every ministry, every state, every district has to have their own plans, and those plans which are in operation. So it is not only NDMA's job. NDMA can only provide guidelines as to how the whole sector looks like, but the response and mitigation or preparedness would be very different if you're talking about Ministry of Atomic Energy, Department of Atomic Energy, vis-a-vis Department of Water Resources. The response would be different, capacity building would be different, and disaster would be prevalent across the sector. It's a cross-sectoral field that we're talking about.
So, sir, when we talk about this promotion of the disaster risk reduction, so how effective is in India's role in it, and how NDMA fits in it, and what role it play when it comes about disaster risk reduction?
Yeah, so very important. I think I should be very proudly saying that India is rated as one of the best. One of the best. Not, I will not say the best, but it is quite well off in spite of the huge population pressure and the biotic pressure that we have on the resources and the constraints of finances that we have in the country. But when it comes to the disaster management and disaster reduction, India is doing creditably, very extremely well at the international forums, whether it is bilaterals or multilaterals. India is leading from the front. So, just to add to my conversation, we were one of the first countries to have a standard comprehensive national disaster management plan for the whole country, written in 2016, which has now been revised again. So it is very responsive. So we have a comprehensive national disaster management plan of 2019, which actually is the framework for disaster risk reduction in the country. I can also share with the audience that we're proud that except for the new union territories, all the 36 states and union territories have their own state disaster management plans. And almost 733 districts in the country, a few of them have been newly created, but almost all the districts in the country have their district disaster management plan. So that is very important to understand. It is the first responder is the district level and the state level. Ministries also, we have 85 ministries and departments in the Government of India, all very different from each other, all having very different roles and responsibilities. All of them are in the process now of drafting their own ministry level and department level disaster management plan,
Mhm.
and also
Mhm.
allocating resources to make sure that the plans are actually implementable. So that is very important. That is a very crucial thing that we're doing. We just had a meeting of all the 85 ministries, all the nodal officers of the ministries, and we're trying to facilitate them in drafting their disaster management plan. So it is quite upfront, and we are working on making that move
Ji.
through taking all the ministries on board.
Mhm. Sir, as we were discussing earlier, like that climate change has increased the risk of disaster in the different geographical regions of India. So, uh, one one thing that we want to know, like how we talked about, the fragile ecosystem of Himalaya, and increasing risk of disaster there due to climate change. What about the rest of the geographical region of India, sir?
See, every region in this job that I'm doing, I'm traveling a lot and going to all these disasters. That's the job I have, and I can share real experiences in the sense every region
Yes.
is behaving aberrantly, abruptly. In the sense, you look at current setup of forest fires. I'm a
Mhm.
forester
Yes.
by training, forester by forest fires are happening at different periods, and different places. You don't get
Mhm.
forest fires in tropical evergreen forest of Northeast India. Forest
Mhm.
fires are happening now in Northeast India, right? Forest
Oh.
fire was normally supposed to be happening in Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, the mountains of Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. But
Ji.
the intensity of forest fire, the duration of forest fire, the frequency, the timing, the niche selection by forest fire is totally different from what has happened in India for 100 years. Just to give you an example, look at
Ji.
floods. 2 months back, I was traveling in Andhra Pradesh. You must have heard about the floods, and people were worried that the Tirupati temple is underwater. And I
Mhm.
landed in those three districts in Andhra Pradesh in those days. I remember the dates also, 18th, 19th, and 20th of November. Unheard of floods, in
Yeah.
districts like Chittor or Kadapa or Nellore.
Yeah.
Kadapa is a totally dry district. People eat ragi there, which is a dry crop, and it had amount of rainfall that that district has never received in hundreds of years. So this erratic weather pattern and the extreme weather events, particularly of hydrometeorology, are going
Mhm.
to be a very important phenomena. Places which are dry will get water, and places which are known for water would get into drought scenario. That is very, very challenging. Look at the cyclones. If
Yes.
you talk about cyclones, there used to be few cyclones in a year, and all of them originating in Bay of Bengal and hitting the eastern coast of India. That is
Yeah.
not true right now. Those formulas have gone awry.
Yeah.
Cyclones are happening on the Arabian Sea and hitting the western coast. People in
Mhm.
those villages and towns in western coast have never seen a cyclone in their for many many generations. So people
Yeah.
responding, crops are responding, the infrastructure of the cities responding to
Yeah.
cyclones is a challenge. Is a challenge. So I can give you many examples,
Yeah.
but hydrometeorology for sure,
Mhm.
we have ruined that in the climate change
Mhm.
impact. The attribution studies are minimal. We can't account that to that, but yes,
Mhm.
we'll have to soon move into a glorious word called adaptation. That is a
Yes.
reality. You'll have to start adapting. All sectors will have to start adapting to the impacts of climate change, and I think that is a reality, and this is going to be very very different. Rajasthan receiving rainfall, Leh and Ladakh, the cold deserts of India,
Yeah.
receiving rainfall. Where houses were made of mud.
Mhm.
Rajasthan, Jodhpur, and Udaipur receiving rainfall is unheard of. Kadapa receiving rainfall is unheard of. So these are going to be reality, and these are you can don't have the science, but not pure science, but you can account that to climate change
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
this is catching up. Yes.
So, yes, sir, can you share some of more experiences, like how the NDMA is managing these kind of disasters is happening somewhere? Like, what is generally the process of response and how you are managing? And can you share some of the best experiences of managing these kind of disasters?
So the best experience that comes to my mind is cyclone. If you've
Mhm.
heard about cyclone 10 years back
Yes.
or 20 years back,
Hmm.
the casualty from cyclones used to be in few thousands.
Yes.
Thousands of people used to die and get injured, and their houses used to disappear during cyclones.
Hmm.
Cyclones is a great thing that NDMA has achieved in almost reducing the mortality rate to zero. You have
Hmm.
cyclones coming. I don't give it only to NDMA because the early warning systems have improved, and the
Okay.
response that people give to cyclone when there's early warning, the
Mhm.
fishermen come back. There are shelter homes. There are
Mhm.
cyclone shelters. People get
Mhm.
into leave their homes and get into cyclone shelter in the
Mhm.
states of Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. So the preparation to face cyclone and the capacity to do early warning for cyclone is a great example of how you plan for meeting disasters. Across the world, in fact, in India also, the human loss has gone down drastically because of better preparedness and capacity building and
Mhm.
plan. Because
One
response
of
is fine.
Yeah, yes, sir. One of the
So
problem
response,
which
Sabsachi, if something happens and
yes,
when the cyclone has landed and the flash flood
yes,
has happened and when the
yes,
dams have broken and people have lost their lives, the only thing then left is to do response. So you reach there fast. NDRF reaches quite quickly. The states are now raising their own SDRF. We call it State Disaster Response Force. So these
yeah.
people would respond. Fire services is gearing up now to respond
Mhm.
better. So, and the cohesiveness between these organizations, you've just seen the ropeway tragedy. That is not a
Yes,
classical disaster, but that is
yeah.
how different agencies respond together. That was unseen in India before. Air Force and NDRF and the local police and the army all working together for a particular cause is very critical for disaster response.
Sir, as you were mentioning right now that the fire department is also gearing up. One of the problem which I think these days we are seeing, and you were also were talking about, are the forest fires. It's happening like everywhere where it was not supposed to. So, in a case of forest fire, like how NDMA respond?
So, forest fire currently, the nodal department and the ministry is the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Forest fire currently is we categorize it as a disaster, but we have some of the states have responded and declared states have the power to declare local level natural disasters. So, some of the states have gone ahead and declared forest fire as a disaster. At the NDMA level, the NDRF is responding when called for. They do go and extinguish the forest fires. But now is the time that we have realized that forest fires are a very critical sector, and we would have to rope in all the actors together because MOEF or the forest department alone would be finding it very difficult to fight fires of the extent that are happening. So we are now looking at a larger program and with a lot of consultation that will be beginning next month. And we try to bring all the actors together, including the local level district forest officer, and try to talk to them how do you integrate all that. What you saw in Deoghar for the ropeway tragedy, the integration of all forces possible is what we want to design for the forest fire response
Oh,
also shortly.
oh. Sir, one question. You were just talking about the local government and and their disaster response team. So, given India's high population, what do you think? What are the role of local government and communities in disaster relief, and how NDMA is helping them or planning to help them?
Very good. I think that is coming to the core of my heart because I believe that NDRF or any of the force at the national level or the state level would come with a delay of 24 hours or 12 hours
Yes,
or
yes.
36 hours or 48 hours. That would be the delay. They will have to fly their choppers, they would organize themselves, although most of them are on high alert most of the time for responding to particular place. But they are limited manpower. So we now in NDMA and the Government of India level, led by our chairperson, Honorable Prime Minister, also believes that the response to disaster has to happen at the local level, has to happen at the grassroots level. And I'll just give two or three examples to prove my point. One is that at the direction of the Honorable Home Minister, we have launched a scheme called the Apada Mitra scheme. We are promoting volunteerism in this country. Currently, we are training 1 lakh volunteers in the country right now. We have already training all 36 states. A lot of states have already started training them. So we are training 1 lakh volunteers to begin with, local youth who would be trained and given kits, basic training for a fortnight and also basic equipments as per the disaster in the locality. And these boys and girls that's how the world behaves. Volunteerism is very critical. So that is one example. This we would like to compound further as we go ahead. Right now we are working in 350 districts out of 730 odd districts in the country, which are more vulnerable. We are training 1 lakh volunteers, and these volunteers would be available to respond primarily, at least to help the local communities. The second point I want to add is a very, 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 very heartening thing that has happened. The Ministry of Panchayati Raj has prepared its own disaster management plan, and
Mhm.
that plan has been translated into Hindi for the time being, and would be translated into other languages also. So, Ministry of Panchayati Raj is also working on trying to make the Panchayati Raj institution at the local government level as the first responder, and that is
Mhm.
very critical. That is the ideal world, that the Panchayat Ghar or the Taluk
Mhm.
becomes a place for response to disaster. So we are working on that. We are also trying to engage with all stakeholders, including the NCC or the NSS or the ex-servicemen. So all kind of possible partnerships at the community level, whether it is the Panchayati Raj institution, which is very critical, the Apada Mitra scheme, and all other bodies we are trying to engage with to actually make community response to disaster reality in some time from today.
Uh, yeah. So, sir, as you were saying that you are, coming up with the more than 1 lakh volunteers who will be trained. So, one of the thing that I think that can prevent the ill effects of any kind of disaster is like creating awareness about it and how to cope it. So, and one thing is to make a general awareness among the masses of those areas, like if Odisha, the people can create can know about how to what it happens, like when the cyclone is there, what they should do, or if there are seismic zones. So if the earthquake is coming, then how should they deal with, or the forest fire, or some flash flood is there, like how people can deal with. So uh, how NDMA is creating awareness in the masses about these things, and what are the plans?
Okay, so that's another good question. That is also one thing that I'm handling in NDMA, and we are working as a team here under the leadership of our members and the authorities. So we are now currently this year we have been doing a lot of work before, but this year we are. I'll just brief you that we are doing all the. We have a huge lot of IEC materials, very short,
Mhm.
very crisp. They are being disseminated. They are being translated into vernacular languages. So we're
Mhm.
using 7 or 8 modes of transmission of awareness. One of them is
Mhm.
classically the Doordarshan and the
Mhm.
local channels of Doordarshan and the TV.
Mhm.
The second, we are going to All India Radio and the radio channels, which will
Mhm.
be now having programs which is month-wise highlight. This month, we are focusing on heat wave. Next month, we move to cyclone. So there's a monthly disaster calendar. So five,
Mhm.
6 modes that we're using. One is the TV, one is the radio. The second, we have now got into conversation with the movie theaters. The
Mhm.
third, fourth is about print media. Fifth
Mhm.
is the other transport stuff like Delhi Metro, the metros of the towns, the
Mhm.
DTC buses, the
Mhm.
airports. So this is
Mhm.
another medium. WhatsApp. We are in conversation with Google and WhatsApp and trying to
Mhm.
integrate the
Mhm.
dissemination of these advisories of do's and
Mhm.
don'ts and what to respond to and whom to talk to.
Mhm.
So that's all coming up. That is also coming up. We are designing a new website and a newsletter about the NDMA. But these are important things. The other important project that we are working on is called the Common Alerting Protocol. So when you're
Okay.
talking about alert, so that is also a huge project that we are working on. So we are trying to look at SMS as a mode of transport, WhatsApp as a mode of transport. We are looking at cell broadcast as a mode of transport. Then your television channels, then your radio channels, national highways, railways,
Mhm.
airports. So all of them would come down to the area of problem and would relay messages. So there would be multifaceted ways in which the advisories and the messages would be conveyed to the citizen of this country. That is also happening. I think within a year or half, we'll have a full-fledged program of common letting protocol coming into the country.
Uh, Wonderful news, sir, and I wish you and the NDMA all the best, because the way NDMA is treating different disasters happening, due to climate change or other reasons, wonderfully they are tackling the cyclones and the flash floods. So congratulations for all your future endeavors, sir, and thank you very much, sir, for taking time from such a busy schedule and talking to us, sir. Thank
Thank
you
you
very
so
much,
much,
sir.
Sabisachi, and thank you so much to the team at CMS for giving me this opportunity and fitting in disaster within climate change and within forest and environment. So I enjoyed talking to all the audience. We don't have a question answer session, but it was a pleasure meeting all of you and pleasure talking, working with CMS. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a great day, sir. Good night, sir. Uh, Friends, this was Mr. Satyarthi. Satyarthi sir is Joint Secretary with NDMA, and he's also advisor there, looking into policies. And we talked in length about different kind of disasters happening due to climate change, and also other things, and how they are trying to cope with it. So thank you very much for being a part of the session such a late time. Tomorrow morning we will be talking at 11:30. We'll be talking with Miss Nikita Sara about the neglected tropical disease and the impact of climate change on it. How it's the climate change is affecting the neglected tropical disease in India and the world. So tomorrow, please join us. And at the end, I really want to express my gratitude to the India Science OTT channel powered by DST and Vigyan Prasad, and all our program partners. And I will once again will like to request you to go to India Science OTT channel and watch the wonderful handpicked 89 documentaries on various aspects of environment, including climate change and in disaster. And you can watch it till 23rd, and do join us on 23rd at 11 p.m. in the awards session. Thank you. Have a great day. Good night.